Hey everyone, today I'm going to share a little trick on how we can dynamically set the language attribute on the HTML element based on the value of an ACF, an advanced custom field. Yeah, that sounds pretty complicated, and maybe you don't even know why or when you want to use this, because usually if you have a WordPress website, you would probably have like a language plugin like WPML, which is the golden standard, I guess. There are other Polylang, other different language plugins that automatically do these things for you. Let me just show you what I'm actually talking about. I'm talking about the different language codes that you actually have in the HTML, and specifically on the HTML tag of your page. It's something that's being used by search engines so they can show the results in your language for this page. It's something that is being used by screen readers so they know what language your site is in, your page is in, so they can choose the right language for the screen reader for accessibility purposes and things like that. It's probably used for a lot of other things, but for SEO, it's pretty important that you have the correct language attribute on your page or your site or the different pieces of content on your website. And let me just show you one example here. If I go to apple.com, let's just go ahead here and we're going to have a look at this one here. Then I am going to right click and I'm going to go to view page source. And then I'm going to have a look here, and actually right now I can already see it. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see. But right here on the HTML tag, we have an attribute called lang for language, and it is set to EN-US. What does this mean? Well, US is for the United States. EN is the language English, because that's what they predominantly speak in the US, right? You can also see other codes here. You can have ENGB, for example, for Great Britain. So this is like a combination of a language and a country code. And I actually have a tab open right here, and you can see it's the International Standard Language Codes and Country Codes. I'm going to leave a link in the description for this page as well so you can have a look. But here you can see the country codes. It's always 2 letters, and they are always capital letters. If I scroll down, we can see the language codes. They're coming up right here. And you can see they are also 2 letters, but like lowercase letters here. So that's what we're going to be using. And I'm just going to show you an example here. For example, on Apple website, if I scroll down to the bottom here, there should be a language switcher right here. I'm going to click on United States, then I'm probably going to go, let's go to Denmark, because that's where I'm from originally. And I can see everything changed to the Danish language right here. If I go back here, I can also see the URL changes here to apple.com-dk. I'm just going to go back to this one, and then I am going to add this -.dk dash, and then I'm going to hit refresh. And you probably noticed it already. Right here, it has changed to da.dk, da for Danish, and dk for Denmark. So that is what we are going to try to make for WordPress. So you can actually have a custom field for every single page, post, whatever you want on your website. And you can use this to actually set this dynamically. Because sometimes you probably don't want to, most of the time you want to use a language plugin like WPML, as I mentioned earlier, because that takes care of everything. You don't really have to think about it. If you have like another language and you switch to that, it's automatically gonna change a lot of different settings, and the language on the page is gonna change and all of that stuff. But sometimes it's not like, sometimes you probably don't want, maybe it's overkill to actually use a language plugin like this, because maybe you don't have all of the different articles or pages in all the different languages that you want to. One example is we have a client which is like and for the Nordic countries, it's about education, and they have articles in Danish, in Norwegian, in Swedish, and in other languages as well. And these languages are pretty similar. So that means that you can actually, most people from those countries can actually go ahead and read those and understand those pretty much. And so maybe we don't, and if we have like a Danish article, maybe we don't have an equivalent article in Norwegian or Swedish, because they can already read the Danish version. But maybe it's pretty cool to have the language attribute set as it should be, both for SEO purposes, but also for screen readers and things like that. So that is kind of an idea. Like if you don't want to use a dedicated language plugin for this, and you don't have one-to-one translations of every single page and post, then you probably want to go this way, or at least this is a way that you could do. So let's have a look at it and get into it. I have installed a WordPress, a Pretty clean WordPress here. The only thing I've done here, I've installed ACF, and I haven't added any field groups yet, but I have added the post type, and this is just the post type called articles. And you can see it's right here and it's empty. I don't have anything. And then I have the bricks theme installed here, and that is just, I'm not going to go into bricks or anything. It's just my theme of choice these days, and I'm just going to set up the template. So that's what I'm going to do first. Very first of all, I'm just going to go back to my ACF here, and then I'm going to add a field group, and we are going to give it a title. First of all, let's just call it a language. Let's just call it that. And actually, let's call this one language as well, I guess. We are not going to take text because we want the user to be able to take some predefined input so they don't make any mistakes. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to have a select box for that. And we're just going to call this language as well here. It's going to take the field name of language, just lowercase. And we're going to add some choices here. And I'm going to add English as the first one. And the second one, I want that to be Danish, and Danish in Danish is dansk, and I want to keep it in their respective languages, so you can actually use this as something you can output on the what's it called, templates. So what else do we have? We have Swedish, which is svenska, and Norwegian, which is norsk. So we're just gonna stick with these. This is fine. I'm not going to do anything here. You could, of course, go ahead and have both a value and a label here, but I'm just, for simplicity, I'm just going to keep it like this. We're just going to return the value, which is what it is right here. We want to go ahead down here and say, where do we want to show this? Well, we want to show this if the post type is the article as I made, but you can also do it for all the other things. Maybe you want to do it for everything. I'm just going to add another one, or if the post type is equal to page as well. So maybe we want to have this selector on every single article, whatever. Right now we're not using the post, but if you add other custom post types, you can add it to whichever you want here. So that's basically it. Let me just go ahead here and say, maybe we don't want to have it required. You can select that, but that's probably a good idea. But we're going to have like a basic default language that is going to be set to if this is not set on the page or post. I'm just going to presentation. Let's just say we want to go ahead and just have this, like, let's say 25%, something like that. We like when it looks good, something like that. I'm just going to save the changes right here, and then we're going to go to the pages first, and I already have my home page right here. Let's see if it shows up here. Yes, we have the language right here, and we can select the different languages right there. So that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and see also if we have on our articles here. Let's add a new article and see if it shows there, and it does. So that is great. So right now I just need some data, and I'm gonna add some I'm gonna make a little template in bricks, and I am going to add some demo content that we can use under articles here, and then we can test it out. So I'm just gonna pause the video, and then I'm gonna go get back to you and show you what I've done. Okay, I'm back again, and I created some articles here in our custom post types article, and I just want to show you something that I forgot to add before. If I add a new one here, you can see I cannot set it to null. I should be able to not, because this is not mandatory, so I should definitely be able to just set it to nothing here. So that's where you go inside the ACF and you edit the field group, and then you say allow null. I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna save that, and then if I go in here and I reload this empty article here, I should be able, it just says select down here, as you can see, so I don't have to set anything here. So that's good. So now we have these articles, and I can go ahead, let's go back here. I'm just gonna leave this. I just made a template in bricks so I know what they're showing. Let's just view this one right here, and this one is just a title, it's just a featured image, and then yeah, some stuff here. But then I have like the dynamic data right here, or it's all dynamic data of course, but this is the ACF field that we used. So if I go back here and we have a look at another one, okay, where is it? It's right here, articles. It's already there. Let's take this one, is in Danish, so I can go ahead here. I can also edit it, and then I edited it already, I guess. So let's just go to the link here, and oh, there you go. Oh my goodness, I really don't like this editor. It's so There you go. That's the wrong link. So here we have, it says Norwegian, and then we have it here, it says Norwegian. So everything kind of works. This is the ACF thing hooked up with everything. And yeah, it's not pretty, but it works. And this is just for the purpose of learning this stuff here. So now we have to get into this stuff. But I want to show you one thing before. If I go back to my settings here and I go to the general settings, you can see we already have the site language. This is in English, United States. So if I go to one of the articles we have already, let's have a look at that. Just view this one, and we can go ahead and we can look at the, well, you just look at the source here, and then we can see we have an HTML somewhere up here. It has a language attribute, which is ENUS. And all of the different languages will have that because it is set in the general WordPress settings right here. If I go ahead here and I select another, let's find Danish maybe. Dansk, where are you? Here you are. And I go ahead and I do that right here. Then I am going to go back here. I'm going to reload this, and this should change to something else. And it does. So that is expected. I just want to show you that it is, by default in WordPress, it is all of the different pages and posts and everything is set to the language that you select here. I'm just going to go back and set it back to English US. So it's going to show like that. Let's try and reload and see that it works, and it does. So now we got to get into the code. How do we actually set this language attribute based on this ACF value? Well, we got to write something in the functions PHP, and we can go in here. I just want to show you that I have another child theme, and it's always good to have a child theme because that's not going to get overwritten. Your functions PHP file is not going to get overwritten by a new update to the main theme here. So that's where we're going to go and edit that stuff. You can go ahead, you can look at the theme file editor. If I click on that one, you can we're going to get a warning here, and if you know what you're doing, you can click I understand, and then we get the editor here. Of course, this is not the best place to edit. You probably want to use an editor for that, but I'm just going to use this for demo purposes here, but so we don't take too long. I'm going to go ahead and open the functions PHP file, and I can see I already have some stuff here, but I don't want to think about that. So I'm just going to make some space underneath here, and then we are going to start to make some functions and add functionality to this so we change this attribute. I'm just going to add some more lines here so we don't get confused by all of this stuff. Then I'm going to move to line 40 or something like that. And the first thing we want to do is declare a function. So I'm going to type out function, and then we're going to call it, let's call it custom lang attributes, because that's what we're working with here, right? And I just want to call this one with the variable. Where is that? It's called output. We'll get into this later. I'm just going to change the language here so it's easier for me. So this is the function here. This is where we're going to put all of our stuff here, or most of our stuff in here. The next thing I want to go ahead, I want to define a global variable here, and this is going to be the post. And this means that this is a statement that we use to access the global post object that is provided by WordPress, and that gives us information about the current post being viewed. So that's necessary in order for us to retrieve this data from ACF fields. So also we want to have a default language. So I'm actually going to make another variable here, which we do this way here, and we're going to call it default lang code, something like that, and we're going to set that being equal to, and we want to use a string here, and let's just say that we want it to the default version to be DK. All right, and we cannot forget our semicolons here. So now we have this already. And the next thing we want to do here is check if this is actually a singular page. And we can do that with the built-in WordPress variables and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and say if, open parenthesis, and it's called is_singular, something like that. And that's a function that we run. It returns the value if it is. So that's a Boolean true or false you're going to get here. But we don't only want to test for this. We also want to test for if it is set the post and it has an ID. So we have this post right here, and then we want to go ahead and do this, and then we want to get the ID there, and that is basically, let's see if we're closing this correctly. Let's open and close this. So this is our conditional statement here. This means that we're checking if this single post or page is singular. So that's what we're going to get there. And we are also confirming that the post has actually a valid ID here. So if it has that, then we're going to do whatever we're going to put in here. So this ensures that it only attempts to fetch and modify language settings on individual posts or pages where all of this ACF data is expected to be relevant, you could say. Also, we want to go ahead and we want to get this language field right now, the language field that we actually have in here that we're using right here. And if we go ahead and edit one of these, this is the ACF field that we want to get, the one that we set on each and single post here. So here we are going to, first of all, make this variable again. And we're going to call it the language field because that is what it is. And then we're going to use this function here called getField. GetField. WordPress function here. Oops. And we want to get the field called actually language. If I recall it correctly, it's the language. And then the second parameter here is the post ID again here. So this just gets the value of the ACF field that is named language, and that is associated with the post that has this current ID here. But I said get field is a function that is not a native WordPress function. It's something from ACF, from Advanced Custom Fields provided by them. So that is what we get now. So now we have everything is going to happen if we have a singular post and it actually has a valid ID. And then we're going to go ahead and grab the field for that specific post that we are on or page that we are on right now. So we have this stored in the language field variable. So the next thing that we're going to do is that we probably want to have an array so we can look up the different language codes, because we didn't put in the language codes like DA, DK and EN, all of these things here. So we want to have like a lookup table for that. I'm just going to go ahead and paste this in here because I already have it ready. So this is it right here. What we're doing, we're setting up a variable right here, and that's going to be an array, and we can see dansk, that's the Danish word for Danish and everything, DADK and all of these stuff. So this is where we're gonna, I don't need this one actually. This is for Finnish, Icelandic. I think we just used these other here. So this is exactly what we need right here. So we're gonna look up for if this one is equal to this, then we're gonna return this one and set this one as the attribute. And if this one is equal to this, we're gonna go ahead here. But that's what we're gonna try to do next here. So the next thing we're gonna do here, another variable. We're gonna take the language code and declare this variable code, and we're going to set that equal to the following here, and then I'm going to explain it. Is set and it's going to be language codes, referring to this one up here, the array that we just created. And that's an array, so we can go ahead and find the index of the array, which will be the language field. So language underscore field. So that's going to go ahead and look up that thing, and that is the one we're getting from up here, right? So we're getting this thing, then we're looking in here, and then we're going to get the language code is going to be this one that we return. We also want to make sure that if it's not set, if there's nothing there, we just want to use the default language here. So in order to do that, we are going to use a ternary operator. So I'm going to put a question mark in here. So we want to, like, if it has a value, then we want to go ahead and return this here. So that's going to be the language, and it's going to be language codes again, because that's the array that we're using. And I'm going to go ahead and find the index, which is going to be, again, exactly the same thing as we have here, right? So it's checking if it has something here. And oops, that's a $sign too much. And so that's what it's going to return if we have it. If not, I'm going to make a colon here. It's going to take the default language code and return that. So I'm just going to take this one, copy that, put it down here, And yeah, that's basically it. So we're gonna make this new variable here, and if that is set here, if this has been set on the page, on the post, then we're gonna return this one. If it has not, then we're just gonna return the default language code, which is the one we set up here. ENDK, that is also totally wrong. Let's call it US. That's what we want, English US or GB or whatever you want, but that was wrong. So that's all good and fine. Let's continue with this. All right, this next line of code is kind of complicated, so I'm just gonna paste it in here so I don't make any mistakes while recording the video, and then I'm gonna explain it, what it is. We're setting up this new variable called output, and this uses the PHP function PREG break replace, and that is used to find and replace an existing, in this case, the existing language attribute on the page. Which is what we want to do. We want to go ahead and say, what is it in here? It's actually this stuff that we have in here. We also use this escape attribute, and that is used to escape the language code safely, so we can ensure that it's safe to output into HTML and prevent these XSS attacks and things like that. So that's pretty important that you use that one for safety. So yeah, we got this one here. The output is going to be, we're replacing the language attribute all over the place if it has this stuff here, and then we are concatenating this with the language code that we get here. So that's basically it. This gets a little complicated maybe, but let's see if it works. I hope it's going to work. So this is the output that we're going to return. But if we don't have that, if something else happens, we can go ahead and add an else statement here, which is what we're going to do. So in here, if it's not a singular page, so this is what we're checking up here. If it's not a singular page, if it's some other kind of thing, then we're not going to do all of this stuff here. We're just going to go ahead and take the default language, which is the one we set up here. So I'm also just going to take this one, and it's pretty similar, but we're just taking the output and setting that equal to the default language code that we set all the way up here in the top. So that's pretty much this is the language code if we have it. If it's singular, otherwise we're just gonna use the default language code instead. And then of course down here we want to return this, so that would be here before we close the function. We want to return our output. So that's basically what it is. And then we actually just have to run this function here. We're going to add this. So here we add the filter, which is a WordPress function, and we want to add the language attributes, which is something that is built into WordPress specifically to actually change the language attribute of the HTML tag. So that's pretty handy that we already have that. And of course, we're going to run this function here, which is going to output whatever it is. So let's just go ahead and update the file and see if it actually works. Probably not, because I usually make a lot of typos, but this is what we have right here. Let's go ahead and go into this page right here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to inspect it instead of viewing the source because it's easier to see. I have ENUS because I haven't reloaded it yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and reload it. And let's see, we don't have anything here. We have a problem here. So we do have a typo or something like that. All right, let's have a look at it. I can see this line here on line 56. I am missing a $sign here because this is a variable. So let's see if that should fix the problem here. Let's update it and let's go back in here and reload the page. And as you can see, it is we're getting this one here, but I can see that this is actually not correct. I think it should be SE, or no, it is correct. SV is for Swedish. So that's great. So now we can see that this actually works. It's setting the language attributes on these pages. So let's go ahead and check the other pages if we have something else, or let's just go ahead and pretend that this one is in another language right now. We can go ahead and say, okay, we want this to be, let's say it's going to be Danish. I'm going to save this one right here. We're going to go back and we're going to have a look at it. Right here's the link. It's opening up in a new. And let's look at this here. Now it is set to DADK, which is correct. Let's go ahead and actually choose nothing here to see if it just sets the default language, which is English. So I've selected nothing here. I'm going to save this one. And then I'm going to go back here, I'm going to reload it, and we can see it's set to the standard ENUS. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do that. Let's just go ahead and have a look at the front page, actually, because I want to check that it works on pages too. So right here, this is just a stupid front page I made. Let's have a look here. We have ENUS here because that is the standard one. If we go ahead and we actually go ahead and edit this page, let's try and do that. Let's down here, we're going to set that to, let's say it's going to be in Swedish, and we are going to save that. We can go back here, we can reload the page, and you can see it actually renders here as the language attribute. So that's how you do that. That's how you can go ahead and do that. I will provide a link to the code below, and of course you have to go ahead and make sure that your array of languages are the languages that you want to use. So I hope this is helpful for some. I know it's an edge case, but you know, sometimes solutions for edge cases are pretty hard to find online. So I hope this is something that can come in handy someday. So thank you for watching, and see you some other day. Bye.